Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's it.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Hey, mommy. Yeah. No.
Hey, lady.
I know.
Yeah, well,
They're all on email all the time too, so it's like.
that was for artistic license.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. See, just without the pictures, it looks so different.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? It looks bare.
It actually looks smaller.
I walked in here this afternoon and I was like, what?
I'm sure. Hey. Hi, guys.
Yes, I No. I'm gonna wait for my wife available. We're watching the offer. The backstory, the making of the doc. Written by the producer.
My son just watched that. He said it was
It's
he said very interesting.
yeah, it's insightful. It's almost like that movie about the making of the first Saturday Night Live. Behind the scenes. Yeah, we're at the point where they still haven't hired an actor to play with the process. I think he was.
Mike, I did cable at Al Pacino's house.
You did cable at Al Pacino's
He
house?
lives in Rockland, yeah. He can't go in his house. You can't see him until he puts on his makeup.
No, yeah.
I'm the same way.
But that's the way he is. That's a true story. Huh? Al Pacino? With some girl. He's
Like 40 years younger than me.
not a nice guy. Now, Bill Murray lives in the same area. Wonderful place, person to go to cable. Great person. Bill Murray is Bill Murray.
What you see is what you get.
As a matter of fact, there's the cable, there's a hose with all the lines and fiber where the glass goes to. It's called the Bill Murray. Yeah, because it's right by his house.
So people aren't going to remember him for his acting or his comedy or remember.
Well, the company does, but there's a problem with the Bill Murray. There's no right way to
Now, I have a plate right now. And Randy too.
Yeah, we should have had it.
23 some years ago. It was warm and dry.
That's all we're complaining
What it is, the nose it used to in the spring.
Dumb luck. This big kind of
Today they were talking.
I just thought, I'm like, it's pretty lucky or something like that.
So this is actually the first
This I got just this past weekend. PC meeting or BPC meeting. I can't say that. This is a shot. That's a bad. This is it's actually good for fishing. One that I just didn't show you. This was supposed to be 50. Similar to striped bass or similar to freshwater bass. They just get.
Can we open up the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Belvin.
Commissioner Gannett. Vice Chair Lee. President Lewinsky.
Here.
Commissioner Wynap. Here. Commissioner Velarde.
Yep.
All in advance.
Public comment limited to 5 minutes per person. Please state your name and if you are a township resident. Is there anybody that wishes to make a public comment?
Cheryl Parks, I've been a resident for 38 years. I just wanted to correct the minutes from the last meeting because it says that I said that the kennel people bulldozed or buried the spring there. It was not the kennel people, it was the woman who originally bought the property on tax sale and spent 9 months gutting the house, removing foundation walls and bulldozing the backyard. Her name is Joanna Wardzella, and that's who did that. And the other thing I'd like to ask, 2 meetings ago, the board said it was gonna advertise to define the nuisance ordinance for the kennel zoning, and I don't see it on the agenda tonight, and so I was wondering if that's still going.
It's been advertised, we were authorized at the meeting, we were authorized to advertise the same meeting we approved it. The hearing will be June 2nd at the new municipal building.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to make a?
Charles Kepler, resident. I'd just briefly like to voice my opposition to the waiver at the event center for the stormwater system. We were just talking at the last meeting about an under-engineered stormwater system that failed. I'm fairly certain this property is going to be right on 611. The last thing we want is a failing stormwater system washing out onto the main road. So I hope that the board will consider, well, not allowing a waiver here, not granting a waiver, and making sure that the developer is doing everything that they need to do to make sure it's engineered to the standards set forth by the state and the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to make a public comment? Seeing none, I'll move on with the meeting. Under announcements, the township office will be closed to the public May 28th and 29th in order to move to the new building location.
Both.
An information session was held today at 12 p.m. to discuss the updates to the Pocono Township Knox box ordinance. Attendees include the township manager, the fire chief, and the zoning officer. Presentations, we have none tonight, and we do have a hearing. I'll make a motion to open the hearing to continue the appeal of the Township Code Enforcement Officer's notice of a dangerous structure order to demolish. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Natasha. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried.
President, as the board is aware, approximately 60 days ago, we began this appeal. It involves the Butts property and some structures located on the Butts property. At that hearing, the attorney for the trust, Mr. Andrew Wolf, was present and made a request that the hearing be continued until this evening. The purpose of that was he had just listed the property. Received a call a couple of days ago, late last week, from Mr. Wolf, and we had a substantive conversation. He's here this evening with us to make another request, but I can tell the board that he does have an agreement of sale. Mr. Wolf will explain the procedure necessary to get that agreement approved, and I don't know if any buyers are present, Mr. Wolf?
Yes, thank you, Mr. DeVito.
Sure.
Andrew Wolf here. I also have Bob Miller with me. He voted that I do all the talking, so I think he's going to sit this out. As you correctly mentioned, Mr. DeVito, we do have the since the last time, the property's under contract for sale. Actually, the property in question plus an adjoining property, as well as the old grain shop property, all three are under contract, but this relates to just the property that has the home on it. That's the subject of this matter. I have a contract here that was entered into on, I believe, the 16th of April with Carlos Martinez, who I believe is a principal involved with Foxtail Builders. I saw Cookie Lancia here come in. I believe she is here on behalf or with the buyer. She is the selling agent on the property. The process relative to the property simply involves a petition which I have filed with the Monroe County Orphans Court to approve the sale. Since I'm a court-appointed trustee, I do not anticipate any issues there. I don't want to call it formality, but essentially it is a formality. So the situation hasn't changed with respect to the building. From my perspective, the only update I have is what I hope to be the case when I was in here 60 days ago, is that the property is under contract and has been for some time now. I can't speak to the buyer's plans. I believe that they are here. I don't know if they wish to address the board as to what their intentions are with the property. My intention and Mr. Miller's intention is to have it sold and transfer ownership so that it can be put to some productive use.
Mr. President, Mr. Wolf, as to the plans, I understand they can be flexible. This board, for this purpose of this hearing, is concerned about the structures that we believe need to be removed. Perhaps the buyers could be able to address that for the board.
Again, they could speak to their plans much better than I can, since they're their plans and not mine. But I'm not sure who's here.
I'm Gina Loyak, Foxtail Builders. Hi.
One moment.
Swear in.
Will you swear in, please? Yes.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And can I have your name again, please?
Gina Loyak, Loyek.
Thank you very much.
Sure. We have entered into a contract that is waiting for the judge to approve. Once that happens, we will go into due diligence in the contract. I don't know how long that's gonna take. There's wetlands involved. My investors will close on the property if it's a clear title, and this is the first that we're finding out that the building was condemned. So we'll have to take it from there, but our intention is to do some retail stores along with a Foxtail Builders kitchen design center.
And the buildings right now are, I'll say, stressed. They're determined by our code official to be dangerous structures. Is there any idea whether or not they will be removed, repaired?
Well, they will be removed once we go through the permitting phase. Our intention is to clear the property. We had no idea it was condemned. If there's a time frame that has to happen, I'm being told by Hess, who is doing all of our paperwork, it's going to be about 18 to 24 months to go through the permitting phases for both those properties. So it would be in that area of time.
That's a little concerning, I think. Or is there any way those properties can be removed in advance of that?
Again, I would have to bring that to the investors and to our attorney and let them answer those questions.
Mr. Wolf, do you have an anticipated closing date on this?
That obviously is dependent a little bit on the buyer's due diligence. And just to clarify a point regarding the condemnation, that is what this proceeding is about, whether the structures must be torn down or repaired. That's what was appealed. And that information had been conveyed through our agent. I'm not sure what the chain. Obviously, I have not any direct communications with the buyers on this, but that information is communicated to the realtor. The closing date, obviously, we're hoping will be sooner rather than later, but the due diligence, I believe it's 30 days from the court approval from the city. There was an addendum on this because there were two properties involved, and buyers had asked to be able to, buyers shall have 30 days from the date the court accepts the agreement to complete its due diligence. So I'm anticipating having court approval probably this week from the ordinance court. At that point, it's buyer's due diligence, and if it passes through due diligence satisfactorily, then I'm assuming that they will close.
And his last name is Loyak, is that correct?
Loyak, correct.
Ms. Loyak, let me ask you a question, and I think I'm speaking for the board.
Sure.
The board wants these structures attended to yesterday,
Sure.
okay? Knowing that now, today, if this board were to consider Mr. Wolf's request for a continuance of 45 days to allow the court approval to go through, would you be prepared to come in and address the board to tell us, because this issue with those buildings is going to follow the property.
Right.
Once Butts sells you the property, the trust and the Butts sell you the property, those structures are still your issue. I think I speak for the board when we just want those correct.
Okay. I understand. I don't, since we have not begun the due diligence, I don't know. This is just a hearing to condemn them. But if they are officially condemned for closing, I will not be able to insure those properties without going through a different, it's challenging, let's just say, so it's a little more difficult for us to close because we will not be able to have liability insurance on the property at the time of closing. So that becomes a problem for my investors.
Which is why, if the board would agree, I would propose a 45-day continuance to allow everything to happen. But at that time and date, for you to appear before the board and say, look, we understand there's a problem, we own it now, we'll get rid of those buildings.
Again, I'm fine with that. I would do that in my due diligence with Mr. Wolf and the investors. I don't know if they're going to want to close and then come and take down those buildings before we have any permits with, PennDOT, with, we're doing the wetlands study right now. We're waiting for that report. And all of, I have to take it to the investors. It's not my call, but I'm okay with 45 days extending that so that I can then find out how we're going to manage that closing with insurances and so on and so forth. I just need from you, how long will we have to then have to take these down, and how does that affect our permitting for what we're gonna do there? Those are the questions that, I need to find out in my due diligence.
Well, the permitting, the permitting to take the buildings down, I assume we could probably have that to you today if you wanted. Okay, all right. So that part of it's not gonna be an obstruction. If you're talking about permitting for the development of the property beyond that,
Right.
obviously you don't have even a concept yet. I know Mr. Wolf's position has been, he's concerned about nonconformity and whether or not we could reconstruct the building in the same footprint. We could work through that, but I think, again, I'm speaking for the entire board, and if I'm not, just jump in, guys, and tell me I'm all wet. But we need to have those buildings addressed.
Yeah, understood.
If I could just clarify, for the record, you mentioned buildings, the
Building.
Right, the subject of this hearing is just the blue building. There's a second building on a second parcel, which buyers also have under contract. It's not the subject of
Right.
this.
I'm
I
sorry.
refer to it as the Quonset hut because it's a Quonset hut. That is not part of this proceeding. It's the house structure with, right along 611.
There's two house structures on that.
Two on that
Two.
one, though.
There's two on that property.
Yeah, but the ones in question, it's just the one with the vinyl siding.
I believe it's just the one structure, but obviously I'll have to check into that. But it doesn't relate to the other property. I just wanted to be clear since you have both properties under contract.
Yeah.
There are two parcels, one 2-acre parcel that is at the corner of Laurel Drive and 611, which is a subject matter of this proceeding, and then a second parcel that joins it behind the strip mall, which is not the subject of the proceeding. Right. Thank you.
what is your recommendation?
Learning this evening that having it declared a dangerous structure would make it uninsurable is concerning. To have any property out there uninsurable. I don't believe that, I think 30 days is a little soon, but the first meeting in July, which is about 45 days to proverbially get it done or get off the pot, I think would be a prudent move if the object is compliance, and not to try to grievous. That's my feeling. We're making inroads. We have the undivided attention of both Mr. Miller, Mr. Wolf. They've always attended. He's always been forthright. That's my thought. Otherwise, you run the risk of killing the deal. And then asking an entity with no money and wanting the court for a year and a half to do it.
Well, we lose our advantage if we don't tear it down now, we could attach the deed, right?
Attach a lien to the property if they were to consent to it without a court order. That's what this hearing is about, is it a dangerous structure or not? That's what the hearing is.
Who would have to agree to that right now? The seller?
I'd like to see seller and buyer.
I mean, because once it's sold, the only if it sits there for 2 or 3 more years, that's kind of like.
It's not, that I can tell you, that's why it would be a continuance and not just end the hearing this evening. We put on our case, first meeting in July, and we'd go from there. I think Mr. McGlynn would be present, at that point he's attending to family matters.
Is there anybody in the public that wishes to make a comment regarding this matter, since this is a hearing? Seeing none. Then the motion would be to.
With Mr. Miller and Mr. Wolf agreeing to extend any and all applicable deadlines as it relates to local agency hearings.
Yes.
On the record.
Yes, we will extend.
And you're speaking for Mr. Miller also in this?
Yes.
Okay. With that caveat, it would be a motion to continue this hearing. What is the date, Jared, for the first meeting in July, please? Didn't even catch you with that in your calendar.
That would be July 7th.
All right, July, it would be continued then, Mr. Wolf, to July 7. I think, and correct me if I just spoke, but did I accurately speak?
No, you spoke.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
we wanted
Okay.
we wanted on yesterday.
You have heard the board's concerns, the buyers have heard the board's concerns. We expect some, hopefully an action plan. If not, we'll be prepared and we will go ahead with the hearing.
Well, hopefully we'll have as much progress from this hearing to the next as we have had in the last of this, which is a huge step in the property under contract. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing to July 7th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Under resolutions,
Thank you, Don.
no, it's continued, so we don't close it. Do we close
No,
it?
I said,
We close it
not
for
that
this
I'm not
evening.
interested.
Make a motion to close the hearing for this evening.
Second.
Second by Natasha. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried. Okay, under resolutions, I'm told that the second resolution, all we have is the first one, that's correct?
That is correct.
So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-18 for preparation and submission of a declaration of taking and related documents on 2865 through 611, 12.8.1.31, and 2856 through 611, 12.8.2.40 for the combination of land for temporary construction easements for public sidewalk improvements. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion?
Yep, Mr. President, just so the board knows, these are for the temporary construction easements. Both of these owners are out of state. We've reached out to them a couple of times. They have not responded to our inquiries to see if we could do it without having to do any kind of taking. But these are temporary construction easements. It's necessary to complete the roundabout. Just that they've been I'm sorry, the sidewalks. Excuse me, the sidewalks. Yes, I apologize. The sidewalks.
And the land will be put back to the way we found it.
That is
after
correct.
construction is complete.
That's correct.
So we're not taking it.
No, we're just getting the right to use it during construction.
And where is this property? Is this the old post office?
It's the PNC Bank is one of them.
How come it's
Two parcels have one address. They both say, oh, sorry.
No.
That was what. Got PNC Bank.
Right across the street.
PNC
Thanks for
Bank.
coming.
That's Deal. That's at the corner of, that's Deal. Deal is the owner.
What's that intersection?
Yeah.
Yes.
Holden.
Yeah, Deal is the owner of it.
And the fireworks.
Yeah, so PNC and the fireworks.
And it's, they're construction easements.
Temporary construction units.
I don't understand why PNC would move them. It's across the highway. Why are we out in 611 if we're doing Learn Road?
No, this isn't for.
This is for sidewalks.
I just spoke, Ellen. I got run over the brain to know that that's our next one.
We have any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried. I'm sorry, that's resolution carried, right? Yeah, resolution. Okay, moving on under consent agenda, I'll make a motion to approve a consent agenda of the following items.
Rich, for record purposes, you need to table the next three resolutions, 2025-19, 2025-20, and 2025-2021.
The following resolutions will be tabled 2025-19, 2025-20, and 2025-21 will be tabled. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried. Under consent agenda, I'll make a motion to approve a consent agenda of the following items. Old business consisting of the minutes of the May 13th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Financial transactions through May 19th, 2025 as presented, including ratification of expenditures in the amount of $877,781.26 for the following accounts: General Fund, Sewer Operations, Gross Payroll, Capital Reserve, Construction Fund, and Transfers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Discussion.
Just wanted to make sure there was a note, with approving the meeting minutes from last meeting that Cheryl's comment would be updated.
Make that amendment.
I'll accept the amendment.
Brian?
I'll second the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried. Under new business, under personnel, we have none. Under mine tonight, I have nothing. Ms. Lee?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ganance?
Yes. I attended the Knox Spots hearing today, for my employer. And as I sat and I listened to the people, and for the public, I originally voted in favor of it, but, my perspective has changed now that I've heard some facts that I didn't know before, and I'm gonna share them tonight. And overall, I think we should revisit it. But when we passed the ordinance, and I have it written down because I can't remember, the intention was clear: to improve the emergency response, reduce property damage, and ensure the safety of our residents and first responders. And it made sense, provide security, rapid access during a crisis. However, after hearing from the business owners and reviewing how that ordinance is to be implemented, I think now we have to reassess both the policy and the enforcement. At the meeting, and specifically, I want to say that the Knox boxes, which I thought were used for a fire, are actually not used in a fire, we were told by the chief. And I think the chief's here, so he can correct me if I'm wrong. To me, that raises a concern that, if we're gonna use the tool of mandating and finding people, I mean, it's not gonna be used during these emergencies. I don't know what we're trying to achieve there by finding somebody. I thought it was a fire, and I don't know what your impressions were. I thought it was for a fire. And because there's really no data, because people had asked, that demonstrates what the benefit is from the Knox box. I understand, and I'm not against the fire company, I think it's a good thing to have a Knox box, but, a lot of people said, why isn't it voluntary? Why is it mandatory? And it could be voluntary. People wanna know if they can opt out, sign a waiver, or maybe repeal the ordinance altogether. Because apparently, even if, and correct me if I'm wrong, chief, if you're out there, if you have an alarm, the chief is notified, right? And then they can do that Knox box things, but if you don't have an alarm, they don't get notified. So if your place is on fire, by the time they get there, they're not gonna use it. So people without an alarm, I don't know that it benefits them. And then, so I think we should maybe look at who really should have them, like maybe a Camelback or a Great Wolf, and maybe who shouldn't. And I think we need to take another look at that.
Yeah. I mean, initially, this came as a request from the fire department, but the goal was never to fine anyone. The goal was just for overall compliance.
But it did indicate in the letter that went out to the businesses, because I received one, that if we did not comply, we would be fined.
Yes, I have that letter here.
Correct, but zoning has the leeway to work with the people. The chief's been contacted multiple times, do site visits, as long as there's some kind of communication, something moving forward. You know, fines don't have to happen. We're not doing this to make any money, we're doing this for the overall safety.
What's the purpose of a fine then? What does it teach somebody?
Well, I mean, the goal, just like when we take anyone, you know, to court or something, the goal is always is, Leo, correct me if I'm wrong, is overall compliance.
But what are they compliant with? If they don't have an alarm system and they're no good in a fire, because we're gonna knock your door down anyway, what's the point
But
of the fine?
these go further than a fire. I mean, it's, if there's a fire, it's not gonna matter, they're gonna knock your door in anyway. These are for automatic fire alarms or an event where flames aren't going, or it could just be smoke from a, you know, belt melting that filled the whole room with smoke. Whereas you're gonna have $2,000-3,000 worth of damage, you know, to your doors, when they could just go in there, check, make sure there's, you know, nobody passed out on the floor.
But from the public, I heard, why isn't that their choice? If they wanna take the risk, why can't they opt in or out?
So we did initially look into this, and Stroudsburg, Coolbaugh, and East Stroudsburg have these ordinances. It is a precursor to us adopting NFPA 2021, eventually when we get there. But the problem with the voluntary aspect was being equal to everyone, making Camelback do it and not making Bill's print shop not do it.
I can't make the motion this, but I think we should revisit it, and I'll put it on the agenda for a motion.
Yeah, what's the fire? Let's hear from Corey.
So in my 18 years I've been doing this, so this is a huge asset. So like Jared said, so we had a fire at the crossings, ended up being cooking smoke because the pot got left on with food in it. So if we would have taken that door, $2,000 for a small fire that was on the pot, like literally smoke was pushing out. And it's not the first time this has happened. So like this whole, how it lets us gain access to the building to prevent damage to doors. So obviously if there's flames dripping out of every window, it's useless. But if it's not, like if we've had air ducts that had small fires in them, where okay, you see a little bit of smoke, I mean, I take your door out, and then it ends up being that little sign. I took your $2,000 door for that sign that had a little bit of electrical fire.
But you're not getting sued for any of that, right? The people just have to pay for it, right? I mean,
So
isn't
you
that
wanna
on
pay-
them?
Well, part of the issue too is a lot of times the fire company will be waiting for a key holder as well. These are volunteers who are out at 3 o'clock in the morning, waiting 3 hours for a key holder, when it could be addressed with the Knox box. They could go clear the scene, make sure there's no life, health, safety issues, pack up and get, you know, back home to get ready for work the next day.
There's also been times where we waited for a key holder, they open the door, and then next thing you know, there's smoke.
But the key holder is only if you have an alarm. If you don't have an alarm, you're not gonna even know about it, right, until the flames are coming out the roof.
But if there's smoke and somebody drives by and they make a call,
Which I've done before. This is a house, but I did that to my neighbor. They were supposed to be out of town. And I could see flames, which was a fireplace, but they're supposed to be out of town. So I called. They would have had it. He has a house in Maine, so he was supposed to be in Maine. They'd had it, plus, you know.
Well,
not.
But we're
In
not doing
this
that
case,
on
it's not, no, but
residencies.
it's the same thing, but just put it out in the context of the.
Now,
Corey,
I spent 20 years as a volunteer firefighter in New Jersey. And, way back in the 70s, 1974 to 1988, I was a volunteer firefighter in Wayne, New Jersey. Wayne, New Jersey, unfortunately, is the home of Willowbrook Mall. At one time, it was the largest shopping center on the planet. And my little fire department, we had to respond constantly to rats running across the beam of the smoke alarm. Back in the days when that was a smoke alarm, they had a light beam. And we'd go and we'd bust the doors down and we'd get in there and we'd have to wait until the police came, we'd have to wait until, and then finally, the town fathers heard about this Knox box. Now granted, today's Knox boxes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, they can be activated and opened remotely. No?
No, that's old technology.
That's old technology. Well, then I'm really old technology, because we had a key ring like a.
You're kind of right. We used to have it where we had to call control center.
Yeah.
And then it would activate the key.
Yep.
So now they don't have that. That's not a.
Right.
It's an older style.
We had like a jailer. We had a key ring like a jailer, and we would go, okay, Fortune Offs, Sears. Oh, okay, here it is, Firestone. Unlock the Firestone store. We go in, not break the windows, not cause any damage. Find out that there was a pop on the stove or something. Okay, we saved Firestone a ton of money just by having that key. So I can't imagine anyone not wanting to mount this to the front of your building and saving all kinds of damage. And also saving a life. If someone's laying on the ground inside that building, and the only way for EMS to get in is with the Knox box key, God bless that key.
I thought it was just for the fire department.
The ambulance don't have access to it. Well, they ought to. That's just my.
Does the police department have access to it? It's not a shared system, so it's only the fire department.
How many businesses came to the
But-
meeting? Oh, I'm sorry.
There were about 20 people there.
And how many letters went out?
1,100, 1,000.
No, in the ballpark between 400 and 500.
So 400 or 500 out of 20. So that means that 380 roughly are okay with this.
Oh,
No, that's not
people
what that
who
means.
work.
That means they couldn't get here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe they have a job.
So,
So you can't say that.
can I ask a question? So I'm for the Knox box. I mean, obviously, I think it's a great idea for some businesses. However, let's say my business in particular. I have a completely automated system. We have a digital deadbolt on our front door. We don't even have a key for our office. And our alarm is digital, everything is digital. They call us, if there's ever an emergency. So what's the difference of the Knox box versus me just giving you the 4-digit code to get into my building? If I have an alarm system. The ones that don't have alarms obviously are completely different, but what's the difference for me versus my key in a box or me giving you the code?
So we have to put that through our responding, which other agencies have access to, where we only have access to, and I'm not gonna remember I put that code in that.
I'm only asking because our business is down in Stroudsburg, which, we've got many on Main Street, and we don't have Knox boxes on Main Street. We have the central alarm mandate for Stroudsburg Borough. However, fire, EMS, and police have our codes to get in our main doors, which eliminates Knox boxes and also them breaking down my doors. So I'm just.
Certain businesses with that issue will have a stamped metal plate as a code once the Knox box is open.
But what's the difference of having the stamped code inside of my Knox box or having my key?
Also, with the Knox box, it's more secure, so if someone accesses the key for the Knox box and it opens that, and you call and say, hey, why were you here? I can go back through Knox box, cloud, Knox box cloud to see who accessed that key at one time.
Devil's advocate here, I also have a tracking system on my alarm. So I can assign the fire department a 4-digit code and I can see if you guys access my building. Playing devil's advocate, it's definitely a great idea for some businesses, but on the smaller businesses that do have the alarms and systems in place, I'm struggling as a business owner versus a commissioner. So.
we should look at it, because even the fire companies said there's some more complex things, and we don't have it defined, who needs them, who doesn't, right? I mean, you have to go out and assess what they need, like, if I have an 8-unit apartment, do I need 8 Knox boxes? Or do I need one, because there's no common entry, everybody has their own door.
But the fire chief has been responding to many emails and doing site visits for anybody who has questions.
So there's an out?
It's not a
No, it's just whether or not you need a
One or 8.
bigger knockbox or one where you can put multiple keys.
So in a multifamily building, because I have a couple in Pocono Township, am I gonna be required to master my building to have 1 key, or am I required to have all 10 keys in the Knox box for my,
It also depends on how your entrances and
well, they're all
exits.
separate entrances.
Corey,
So that gets very expensive, sorry.
Corey, speak to a building that doesn't have a fire alarm. What's the reason to have it on that building?
So like you said before, so if you're driving by and you see smoke coming out of it, before their flames are coming, and we get dispatched and we can get there before and help prevent more further damage. Like I said, we've had where air conditioning ducts, the fire gets up in them for a 30-second fire with a water can. I'm gonna take out your door and then prevent and make more damage when we put it isolated to that section.
But again, wouldn't that be the business owner's prerogative?
Well, I don't know, because
I mean, does government need
something
to-
lights up on 611 here through town where everything's right close together. You're taking your neighbors with it. Before there's fire showing, they could've got in and prevented it.
This isn't a fund of residential. It's only
No,
commercial.
they're not there's no residents all through there, it's all commercial. I'm talking right, just next to, where am I here?
You're in town hall.
Where yours is, right where yours is. One fire could take out that whole block.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could.
I mean, definitely could. But then at that point, they're taking
At
down the
that
door
point,
anyway.
right, but are they gonna sit there and, well, we see smoke, but it could be minor, or just knock the door down? Why not have the key to go in and assess it before you knock the door? Or hesitate.
I agree if you don't have an automated system. You know what I'm saying? That's
If you
what
don't have an automated system.
If you don't have an automated system, but if you have an automated system, that kind of changes the whole game.
Well, ordinance says you don't have that, you need one, so.
I have one, but I
Okay.
won't, I want them. And we just did it at the conservation district to prevent Blue Ridge from sitting around for an hour and a half because our key holder lives in Carbon County. That prevents her, a single mom, from coming all the way back over just to give you a key.
So that would be her choice, again.
No, it wasn't her choice, it was our choice.
I know, but I mean, a person could make that choice for themselves. And the fines, I just think are totally out. I don't think we should be fining people
How much is it? I didn't read it.
$1,000.
a day.
A day?
That's if we get to that point. That's not the intention, it never was. And again, zoning has the leeway before they would bring it to the board and say, we need to file with the district magistrate to start assessing these fines. Just think of fire safety eventually, this will be everywhere when we do adopt an FBA.
I can turn it back up. That
Take it
guy's
off.
room is a completely different type of room over here. I can attest to that.
My hands are already closed.
So this whole thing is more to prevent damage than it is to further damage.
That's the quality part of the
It's not to save a life, so we're not saying.
Well, yeah, it is to save a life.
I mean,
It could save a life.
It could be, and
And
fire rating
in my,
fiberglass doors are
in the
expensive.
70s and 80s, if it wasn't for those Knox boxes, there could have been lives lost.
They would use them for a fire.
Yeah.
We don't.
But if these guys hesitate because they don't want to knock down your.
Exactly.
And now you lost your building.
They would do the same thing they're doing now.
But what if there's smoke coming out of
What
the
if there's-
building and somebody's on the floor from smoke inhalation?
Amen.
And we don't know.
I think
They're
it's
gonna
a
break the
small.
door down and get in quicker than go into the box.
Well, they're gonna hesitate to see, is it a fire, is it a pot on the stove?
Corey, how much are they?
The range in price depends on what you get.
From what to what?
So the one we just purchased at Northampton has an alarm and a tamper sensor in it, so that was an additional $100, but it was $560.
I don't necessarily think it's the cost, There was a lot of chatter on Facebook leading up to this meeting over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and a lot of the concern was the safety issues of businesses having their keys on site and tampering with the Knox box. That's what a lot of the people were concerned about on Facebook. I was not able to attend
To
today.
tamper with that
but
box, you're gonna, the same stuff you're gonna use to tamper with it, you're gonna go right through their doorway.
That was my response to everything on Facebook. I'm just gonna break your mic up. But
I
I'm
hate
just
the
saying
word
that was
mandatory,
what
quite
was
frankly, but I voted for it. I hate that word mandatory, especially when somebody's telling me I have to. But in this case, I'm going to, and I voted for it. I think it's, I don't think it's that big a deal. I mean, if people can't afford a $500 Knox box,
So,
If you have 100 apartments, it's an individual entry, you need 100.
no, you need one.
You need-
One
you
for
need-
what?
you
One with
need
100
one.
keys in it. What?
Seriously.
No,
there's
that's
different
how.
size knock boxes,
Yeah.
of course, coded like.
And then you label
So you
each
don't
one,
need-
apartment 1, 2, 3,
By the time you search through 100 pieces, you could have been in.
if there's fire showing.
I mean, ultimately, right now, the township applies to NFPA in 2018. Eventually, we're gonna have to go with NFPA 2021 code, which is going to make this mandatory anyway.
Can we start it as like a program, volunteer, and then when we get to where we have to do it, you make it mandatory? I mean,
Or the board could direct zoning to push it from 6 months to 12 months.
What do you guys think? You guys are gonna be the ones dealing with it.
Or you guys, whatever you guys want. They don't get
it's really not what we want, it's what the people, right?
Well,
I mean, who we here?
Well, we're here for them too, right?
How many site visits and or discussions have you had with homeowners?
We've
or
probably
business
done,
owners?
we've went out to probably about a dozen sites. We probably have about 25 orders of Knox boxes being processed right now. The first ones that ordered them back in, I want to say like the first week of April, are just receiving them. So it does take roughly 3 to 4 weeks for it to get there. But we normally have everything answered, whether it's an email, a phone call, a Knox box submitted to our website for approval. They're normally completed within no more than 5 days. We go out to sites, we work with them. I mean, luckily, a lot of our schedules are flexible, so we'll go morning, afternoon, weekday, weekend, whatever people need. We've really been, bending over backwards, but definitely, working with the community to do that.
Thank you.
And I think it's a great program for the people that want this. It's great.
I don't necessarily agree that it should be voluntary 100% as if they want it or not, but I think it should vary by business and use of the property. Like something like Camelback, 100%. I mean, if you're gonna call a key holder, you're waiting forever for Camelback and the crossings and those kinds of places, but I hate to say it, but like your larger businesses that don't have owner-operators on site might be a little bit better to have Knox boxes, and then your owner-operated ones, smaller businesses, maybe after an inspection, give them an out of some way.
Should be, waiver, that's what they opt out. It could be
I don't see why we wanna opt out. I mean, it's a life-saving event, just for the firemen, because if they can get in and prevent a fire, that way they don't put their lives in jeopardy.
100%.
And also, it protects the owner from them breaking the door down. Otherwise, you want them to break every door down with every smoke.
That's what they're doing now.
Well, they are, but
I mean, they try
I'm
to
just
prevent
saying,
that.
that's right.
But a lot of times you're waiting, you're sitting around.
Yeah.
It's for,
Yeah.
for some
Yeah.
reason. These
Not
guys
when
are-
there's a fire.
For a key holder.
Yeah.
There's not for a key holder.
Yeah. But that's
They
what I'm
can't, and
saying.
then they can't knock the door down, go in and put out something that was a belt in the one you guys were telling me about. Then they have an unsecured building, they can't leave.
Then maybe the people with alarms that they have to go out to need to have them. But people without them, you wouldn't even know anyway.
We get lots of calls for steam coming from buildings, especially when it's, rainy season. When it's humid, we'll get a lot of investigations. I see smoke coming from the roof of a business, I see smoke coming from a shed. Especially if it's after hours, and businesses are a lot closed, weekdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, things like that. We have waited multiple hours, whether it's the middle of the night, even the weekday afternoon, trying to gain access. Luckily, we have a lot of tools that we can make damage but not make tons of damage. But I mean, in my opinion, it's easy for everybody to sit here and say, yeah, if you want to break down my door and go in my business, great. Well, until we go and break down your door, then you're going to come to me and say, why did you break down my door? You know, it's really easy to sit here in this beautiful atmosphere and say that. But when we're out there and making a call, that's going to cost them $100. You know, that's something that keeps us up at night. Not the fire that's blowing out of the building. It's, you know, costing people money, making them upset with the fire company. You know, that's what we're here for, to serve the community, not to make harsh feelings.
Especially if there's no fire.
Correct.
Nothing's more fun than taking a Halligan bar to a nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, people like
The fiberglass fire.
There you go. You hit it with a sledge, it opens.
It's not good in the chunks of
And small businesses that cash flow
There's a code that they have to get that code. So nobody can get the code. And you can't reproduce the code. Only not.
I said, we wait until the 6 months? So once the 6 months happens, I'm sure we're gonna do an inspection with all the businesses. After the inspections, we'll meet with every business owner and then go from there. We're not looking to make money out of it. If they don't wanna comply, then that's a different story.
The $1,000 fine, then we collect the fine, buy a Knox box.
There you go.
Make it a $500 fine, collect the fine, buy a Knox box with it. So it's not a fine, it's just mandatory compliance. I mean, voluntary compliance is obviously the easiest and best thing to do.
And before we file with the magistrate, we always bring it to the board anyways.
Lower the fine to what the cost of the Knox box is, and that way we can just use the money to buy a Knox box. We're not trying to make money off people for a fine. I hate fines.
Safety and security.
Mow your grass, you go to jail for 90 days.
Important one. It's not here.
I think that was important.
What else, Ellen?
My usual, is for Amy, the solar field, I understand we got another violation, did we get that report yet?
I've not seen a report come in. I believe that the conservation district is going to be doing a compliance order. I'm trying to, you know.
Yeah. It's gone up to DEP. DEP's gonna be doing the field order, which is even more powerful than what we passed, to give them a cease and desist. And they've asked that we just let them do their thing. It's an enforcement issue now, and they can't talk about it.
They being who, DEP?
Conservation district.
Conservation.
And DEP's gonna issue a field order, I'm pretty sure it's been issued already, that no work can go on.
It has. Yeah,
The
DEP did do that, they did.
They appreciated, the district, as I told you, they appreciated that we issued a cease and desist too from our grading.
They were also up there last week taking samples to the lake at 1007 Sullivan as well.
And it's, you know, my speech about, and then 2 engineers have looked it over, designed it to a manual that the state produces, and then the ditch digger gets in trouble. Well, from what I've seen now, the ditch digger has plenty of responsibility in the whole thing. So everybody's getting talked.
So once, when you said DEP does that, is that public, can we get a copy of it? Is that a report that goes out from DEP?
Honestly, I've never seen one. Maybe, you know what they look like?
I don't know. I haven't done any of that.
Believe me, most.
They reached out to let us know that they didn't stop work
Right.
order.
Okay.
That's why I've never seen one.
Yeah, nobody ever wants to get to that point. Where TV's involved, because it gets ugly.
Yeah, I mean, they did send us a copy of the stop order, yeah.
So from this point forward, if I get a phone call that something else is going on, I should not report it, or I should?
No, you should, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the only thing they're gonna be able to do, they have to come up with an engineered plan that DEP accepts to bring the site into compliance. And then they'll be allowed, and I'm making this up because I don't know, I think at that point they'll be allowed to work that plan towards getting that compliance order.
I think we'll have to see that field order and see what it says
Yeah.
at some point. Thank you.
I want to make a motion, to direct the township solicitor to prepare and deliver a written legal opinion setting forth the legal standards, procedures, procedural steps and notice requirements the township must follow when rescinding or denying an extension that has already received conditional or preliminary approval, including any potential liabilities or appeal considerations. And I get a second, we talked about it last.
This is for,
I had asked Leo for an opinion,
oh,
yeah, I think last week, and then Jared helped do this, because he needs specific things to help him.
I thought you were, okay, we gotta get it. Well, I'll second
You
it.
can second for
I'll
discussion.
second
Okay.
it, so we get the
that's what I
discussion.
was asking you, okay.
So, I think this goes back to the cell tower. They didn't have it conditional approval or preliminary.
Well,
approval.
This is
general.
broken into two different options for one of how long we can extend something where a developer would grant us an extension.
Well, the MPC
while
says
we're-
5 years.
And there's also one that's, the second one is for something that's already been approved by the BSC.
The MPC says 5 years.
On an approval, not on how long you get to prosecute a plan.
So
The
this
first
is,
question is, how long do you get to prosecute a plan? As I understand.
How many extensions?
so it's just setting a timeline.
What,
Of
what,
instead
what
of
does,
being open-ended
I-
for 15
I
years.
believe what I'm asking is, what does the case law, how long and what must you show that you are in good faith prosecuting a plan from delivery to the township application until you're looking for approval? So can I submit
That's
it?
what I think you're
I
saying.
think that's the second
Yeah,
motion.
I think that's the second one. But this one is once you have an approval, that's what you're asking. Right?
Okay,
You
yeah.
Conditional or
So if we
preliminary.
give somebody preliminary approval or preliminary final approval, however that works, and then they take 5 years to execute.
I think it's 5 years.
It is 5 years.
Or
By
whatever to
MPC.
execute.
But we're not
But they're not
required to
moving
grant those
forward on
extensions,
it.
right?
5 years.
Over 5 years, you are?
So they're not moving forward on it.
Because we require them to come every year.
Correct.
And request an extension if they're not starting the project.
Right, and I'm saying, how many times do we have to allow them to do that? And you said it depends, if they're not making any progress, you can stop it.
I confuse both issues.
Okay.
Once you get approval, you have status. Our ordinance says it expires at the end of 1 year. You don't have to prove beyond that. I'm comfortable saying that. And I'll get an opinion, but I'm comfortable saying, you don't prosecute the plan, you come, you request an extension, we can deny that.
Absolutely.
We can deny
I agree.
it. What I was thinking about was the plan where they submit it, we may have this between now and June 2nd, where they submit a plan because they know an ordinance may be changing. And then they try to let it sit for 2 or 3 years until they're ready to move. And they have to continually grant us extensions. My concern is at that point, how long can we let them go, letting it sit dormant? And then say we reject it based on the engineer's comment letters, and then at that point in time, they sue us, challenge us, because now the zoning has changed, and they can't do what they wanted to do. So in other words,
And that's them granting us an extension.
that's them granting us an extension, that is correct.
We don't grant them.
Which
an
I
extension.
find that.
I understand that, but how many times do we have to allow them to grant us an extension? Am I-
Well,
right?
that-
Isn't that the second one here?
Yeah.
That's the second one, The first one is, they get preliminary plan approval, that's good for 1 year, and then it expires.
But what,
It goes away.
Is
And they
there
have to
going to
start-
be-
They could start from the beginning unless this board grants an extension.
but is there gonna be a checklist of, you wanna see A, B, C? Because, I mean, you could potentially just have the board deny it even though they're actively working on it. So, if you're leaving that open to interpretation of the board, there should be a checklist of have they done A, B, C, D in the past year, because I'm doing a very small project in another township, and I have 14 units, and I'm hiring a geologist at this point, and I'm 2 years into it for a septic system. So,
We're confusing issues. I was confused, but we're confusing issues. Issue number one is, they come in, they get approval, preliminary, final. Boom, They're done. They're done in front of us. They may have to get a PennDOT permit, they may have to get a NPDES permit, whatever it is, third, outside agency approval. And they let it sit for 5 years without doing it. Meanwhile, there's a probability or a chance that some of the ordinances may have changed. With their approval, they get the benefit of the ordinances that were in place at the time of their approval. Now, 5 years goes by, it's sitting dormant, they haven't done anything to try to move the plan forward, break ground, do whatever. Once that year or an extension is up, can we deny, revoke that approval or deny the extension, which means the approval dies?
And that's what I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, but where's the checklist of what we find that they've done anything with? Or are you saying they're either doing something or they're doing nothing?
So you're saying we have they have a plan approval.
But who's gonna dictate what they've done
I think
is
if they, I
enough
think
to
if they
grant
come
the
in, I think if
extension?
they come in, using your example, and they say, look, we're having problems getting perks and our septic system designed, I need to bring a geologist in and everything else, that shows that you're diligently prosecuting the plan, I need an extension. At that point in time, I'd be hard pressed to argue that in front of a judge. If you come in, like some of the projects we've had that have been on the books forever, Comelson being one,
Absolutely.
where you have your approval and he was waiting to see what 715 was going to do. Okay, and yeah, I mean, it was 5 or 7 years where nothing was done. So long as we gave him an opportunity and we extended it, but nothing's being done, he comes in that third time, second time and says, we can say you're done. You're done, you haven't done anything to move the plan forward.
And we did that, and we
Yeah.
lost, right? The judge ruled against the township.
On that case, we did because there was no other basis. The only thing he hadn't done was break ground, really.
So he had final approval, not conditional.
He had final.
Not conditional.
Well,
approval.
we had it with conditions, but the condition was very subjective. The judge said, how does anybody ever comply with this?
So, we just got approval last year in Smithfield for a project, and it says in our approval letter, we have 5 years to prosecute the plan or come back for an extension. Her and Ron Karasek is the,
Mhm.
her, MPC.
Our ordinance says 1 year. We've had that issue.
So that's where the confusion comes into play, the
Yeah.
MPC versus
Can we-
our
so-
3-year extension.
Yeah, it says, the MPC says 5, so can we be stricter than the MPC? And expect the court to hold that up?
I think you can, if, but again, if I'm authorized to do this opinion, I'll get all those answers. That's-
I think we need the answer. It keeps coming out. That's
I
why.
don't.
In,
That's already, we already
I
had
think
it.
it'll help the planning commission.
in New Jersey, where I was, you have 1 year to start your project.
That's
don't-
what we have. That's what we have.
Is it, you don't start the project in a year, don't pass go,
As
don't
in
collect
break ground
$200,
or
as in
permit?
start the project,
Well, what if you don't have outside agency?
Yeah,
start over.
see, I don't wanna be that,
With
I don't wanna
with
be
the
that.
use,
I
that's
don't
the
wanna be
Uniform
Jersey like
Construction
that.
Code, New Jersey.
No.
Start over.
Today we're not. And I don't think we need to go in that direction.
There's some projects that just sit out there forever.
And I
Troubles
agree,
would be
the
a-
ones that are just dragging on forever, that
Yeah,
they've
that's
literally
what-
done nothing, I
Right.
agree. But the ones that are actively trying.
No, as long as you
they're
try,
permitting.
as long as you're trying, absolutely, keep granting the extension.
Or if there's an ordinance, there's an ordinance change, then.
Or zoning.
Yeah,
Then
soil
you're in the
and
gray
erosion,
and they
sound
have no
level.
idea what to advise you.
Do what?
So then you're in the gray, nobody can do what to advise you. That's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, so why don't we get, why don't we have,
I'll get us an answer on that. That's not a problem. Yeah, they do have to vote on that motion.
Get a roll call.
I'll get Anthony.
Yes.
Natasha Wade.
Yes.
Rich Lewinsky.
Sure.
Brian Wyatt.
Yes.
Mike Valari.
Sure.
All bad.
And then, the other part of that, I'd like to make a motion to direct the township solicitor to prepare and deliver a written legal opinion detailing the statutory and case law authority the township may rely upon to deny a land development extension request and a proper method for delineating and documenting such denials in our official record.
Second. Okay, so, yeah, now this one you mean them granting us an extension?
While it's still in the planning commission.
While it's still in the
phase,
planning
rather than
commission.
BOC phase.
Okay,
Right?
So this will help the planning commission.
You know,
have a timeline.
They can extend.
but when,
We have to, the extension should come to us to be granted, to accept.
yeah, what if we don't accept it?
Well, that's what Ellen's
That's what
asking.
Ellen's- that's what
When
Ellen's
can-
asking.
That's what that one is. When can we
The
not?
question is, when is enough enough?
When's enough, like,
When is
like,
enough
like
enough?
the cell tower?
Correct.
Three years.
It just kept going
Yeah.
on
Forever.
and there was
Yeah.
nothing being done.
Right.
Yeah. Roll call?
Onion Ant?
Yes.
Rich Wolvent, or Natasha Lee?
Yes.
Rich Wolvensky?
Yes.
Brian Wyatt?
Yes.
Mike Flurry?
Yep.
All passed.
Thank you.
Mr. Lana?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Ward?
Tomorrow is primary day. If you haven't already voted, don't forget to go out and vote, because we still live in the greatest country on the planet, and gotta go out and vote. That's it.
Thank you. Zoning?
Yes, so I have two possible action items. It's two additional dangerous structures. Memos were circulated to you, I think, end of last week, or the week prior, for 268 Laurel Lake Road and 2914 Bartonsville Avenue. So I guess we'll start with the first one. Motion to declare 268 Laurel Lake Road, tax ID 12.98.1.99 as a dangerous structure. This was the attached single-story garage off Laurel Lake Road that is starting to collapse on the sidewall. Pictures of that and the memo prepared by Sean are also included in your packet.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion?
Have the property owners responded at all?
We have not gotten a response.
And it was sent both certified and regular mail.
And they were posted on the properties as well. For this property as well as.
Is anybody living there? Is anybody living?
I think it's a summer house, the one on Laurel Lake, potentially.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's, the ownership goes to a different state.
So the danger is, you think it's gonna fall down?
potentially, yeah, there's a big crack going up with the.
I saw the crack.
Yeah, starting to go in.
But it's not gonna go in the roadway.
I'm just wondering what the danger is and to whom, if it's just gonna fall down. I mean, then you have to clean that property, but I don't know.
Once,
I mean, it was leaning, it looked like it was leaning.
once we declare it a dangerous property, you know, if kids were to get in there and fell down and got killed, we have any, but.
Township doesn't.
Oh,
We ain't gonna-
We don't have any liability now,
Huh?
though. We don't have any liability now,
You
though.
have a conscience, right?
I do have a conscience 100%, I'm just
Yeah.
saying in
I don't
general.
want kids to get, I mean,
Exactly.
I know they're going in and out of the one at 2914 Bartonville Avenue. They're playing house in there all the time. They drive by across there. Yeah, no, and I don't need to
Yeah.
be smart, I'm just
No.
saying, if somebody,
No, good point.
All in
It's
favor?
right next to the lake too. There are a lot of like kids and people that are walking past it pretty regularly.
Hey Charlie, if you get elected, you'll get your turn, but you get public comment. That's it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Just the first one, that's more like.
And then the second was, motion to declare 2914 Bartonsville Avenue, tax ID 12.9.1.48 as a dangerous structure. This would be for both the primary structure as well as the accessory structure on the property.
That's
Really
easy to
creative.
see, and it's gone.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike, discussion?
Yes, I had, written to Sean that there's an oil tank there that could possibly be leaking, and what do we have to do to get that in motion to have that checked?
Administrative warrant? So you can enter the property?
Do you believe, I think we should do that.
It's on the outside.
I know.
Well, since the property owner's not even addressing the issue.
It's
and
owned by the bank.
It's owned by the bank?
Yeah.
Well, has anybody notified the bank? Cause they usually jump on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because they could be responsible.
Mhm.
A leaky oil tank, they would usually jump on.
Well, that and there's a delinquent tax notice in front of their house, in front of that house, as well, so.
So if we tear it down and dispose of the tank, legally, we'd have to lien the property or lien the cost.
But, Leo, if we don't have an administrative warrant, and we ask the conservation district to take a look, since they have the authority to go into property.
They're not gonna go look at a weekly over.
No.
I don't think so.
EP will.
Will they take care of it then?
They'll come back and tell us it's leaking.
Well, I need them to do.
It's empty. No, if it's leaking, it's empty.
Get an administrative warrant, we could.
But isn't the warrant to enter in the property, or isn't zoning allowed to walk the exterior of the property without a warrant?
The exterior, but how do you determine if the tank is leaking on the backside and you can't see it without getting onto the
You
property?
might not even have anything in it, I don't know.
Go up that driveway.
It's an
outside oil
It's
tank.
outside.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, you can't start snooping around somebody's property without. They do where? Where?
Not you.
I do it. I do it all day in Jersey.
Anything else?
Yeah.
As long as it's-
Okay, I'll follow up, can I look into that? Yeah. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Corey?
I don't
You have a
really-
report?
I don't have it. I did it last month.
Did it last week.
I guess that's okay. Township manager, Mr. Bell?
Make it quick tonight, we are set to get ready for our moves. Moving May 30th, Public Works is doing a great job. They started working on the parking lot today. Scratch coat went down on the upper parking lot. Crack sealing went down on the second, third tier parking lot, and exterior painting started today. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Bell?
No, is that a Saturday?
Friday.
So is it, are we gonna be closed on the 30th also?
No, we'll be open in our
Oh, in the new place.
new place.
We have a grand opening ceremony?
We will, once the lines are striped and everything else is ready,
Cool.
but we will, do that, and I think that it would, I would like to include, Public Works into that. Get a nice, border around the picture frame and have everyone sign their name on it, we couldn't have done it without their help.
Absolutely.
You ain't kidding.
Thank you. Mr. Briegel, Public Works.
Thank you, sir. I just have a few items tonight. You'll see in your package, there's a contract from Xylem, which was formerly Evoqua. The cost is the same as it was for last year. It's the monitoring of the dioxide, which is used to treat the H2S, hydrogen sulfide, at the plant. So I'd like the board to approve that for another year. Keep in mind that the system that the board approved 2 months ago, which is partly installed at Pump Station 5, will help us regulate dioxide at Pump Station 5. I'm hopeful that after that system's up and running, we may be able next year to not have to have this monthly contract, because I think we'll be able to control it better. But that's still, we still need to prove that out.
So I'll make a motion to approve the updated bauxite pricing and service contract with Xylem. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion?
Leo, did you look at it? Or is it just
It's the same one as last.
Same one as last
Roll
year.
down into
Yeah.
that.
The only difference is they did lower the dioxide price this year a little bit.
4 cents a gallon.
Ooh.
So,
Thank you.
Better than going in the other
it
direction.
does add up.
Yeah, it went from 4 cents a gallon.
Anything else?
Yes,
Wait a minute.
Well, we gotta-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just talking about it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried.
thank you. I also have, 2 items that were part of the approved 2025 Parks budget. The first is a Wilmar zero-turn mower in the amount of $11,142. Yeah.
Are these all co-stars?
Yeah, well, actually, one is CoStars and one is Sourcewell.
Okay.
Both of them are being sold by Marshalls. We did some shopping around and they actually not only are local for us, but they also have the best pricing too.
Okay.
So yeah, one is Sourcewell and one is CoStars.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a Wilmer zero turning mower in the amount of $11,142. That was budgeted for this year. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of a Billy Goat Z300-1 blower in the amount of $11,934.23. That was budgeted for this year. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Back to you, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Couple things, I followed up with Helen Beers, the Township Sewage Enforcement Officer, far on our last meeting. She was pleased to announce that there was only one violation that she was pursuing, but what I suggested, and I told her I would come to the board, if there was something that was significant going on, she'd be happy to come and attend the meeting. In lieu of that, on a monthly basis, I'd be happy to give you, if there's anything that she's working on that's important as part of my report, provide an update on that. If the board wants to hear from me on that, I'd be happy to do that in her stead. Okay, great. And then I got a request from a board member from Mountain View Village. That's the small townhome community that goes, it's kind of from a back road on the left-hand side and across the bridge. There are two short township roads that serve their community. And when I say short, I mean very short. They're asking for a speed limit sign. I reached out to John Tressler. He didn't see any problem with us putting up the speed limit sign there on our township road. Is the board okay with me correcting the
Longer township road, though.
15? Yeah, it's a township road. Okay, they'll be happy to hear that.
What is the speed limit?
15.
Are we allowed to go all the way down to 15?
25.
25, yeah.
I mean, it would be hard for somebody to even get up to 25 and that's just such a short path.
I don't think we can.
Not without a study, not without an engineering study.
Well, we can't go any lower than 25.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they want 15, right?
They would want it as low as possible.
What happens?
25, yeah.
Well, right now,
25.
there's
It's
Put your
really
parking
short.
brake on.
Yeah, it's-
So they would just like something.
What happens with enforceability of that?
Well, that's the problem.
There isn't.
So, yeah.
Well, at 25, which is 25 there is, but not at 15, without an engineering study to determine whether or not the speed should be reduced to 15 miles an hour.
But right now, the road's so short, there is no speed limit sign.
So we put the
But,
20, so
I
it's 56,
suspect-
55, yeah, so we put the 25s up.
Yeah, I suspect there's one continual violator.
And they're gonna call now.
Who, according to this person, is going very fast. So at least if you put that 25 up,
Yeah.
I think that's a start in hopes that the 25 is quite too fast.
And then get it with the NRED,
Yes.
boom, done. All of those,
The street might not be long enough for the distance between the white lines.
they're just over 6 feet apart, 5, 6 feet apart, so lasers. NRED lasers.
Do you know any of this?
Somebody else
Huh?
do
You
something?
know?
Yeah.
Evelyn?
Can we use that? Do we have it?
I don't know. We don't have that. Those are, you said about any, do
we have a laser.
Yeah, we have, but they don't, I don't really use it.
How far apart do they use?
like 5 or 6 feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is generally you have to keep someone there with it, so you have to use 2 cars to do it.
So you change
Sometimes,
car.
I know Spread Regional's had issues with Schaefer Schoolhouse Road is a perfect example. People purposely ran them over or stolen them.
Great.
So it takes, so when we do our big speed crackdowns, that is sponsored by the district attorney's office, we utilize that. And it's almost like an operation centerpiece. One person sits there and as people go by, there's just car after car after car.
Okay.
Do I need a motion from the board for that, or that's just a sign up?
You don't need a motion for that, I mean, it's just a sign, 25 miles an hour is legitimate, just put it up there.
Okay, great, thank you. And then just a few other items. So we're gonna be moving, soon into drainage work, which is gonna include the Cobble Creek drainage issues that we've spoken about in the past, replacing some driveway plates up there. Then we'll be moving to do drainage on the roads that are slated for improvements this year. So we've got our work cut out for us. Hopefully the weather cooperates a little bit more than it has been. That's my report. Any questions?
Yeah, on Cobble Creek. I think that was, that's the one I'm thinking of, that was a big question mark because we thought we were going on private property. So we're not doing that, right?
The work that we're gonna be doing is on the township road only.
Okay.
And it's the top part and then the second part, because it's like 3 layers. So the first part of the road has major ponding issues. The second one, the pipes have just collapsed under the driveways and stuff just from being metal pipes throughout the year. So a lot of the culverts are either filled in or the pipes are collapsed.
So isn't the driveway pipe the owner's responsibility of the property? Is that right?
The owner pays for the pipe
Yeah.
and we'll install it as we're.
And then we do offer payment plans if there is anyone with a financial hardship.
Thank you.
Well,
Anything else? We done?
I had a question on this, there's a letter in here for, Southern Cascade Road, and I couldn't determine, is it longer than we thought, shorter than we thought, or is it exactly what we thought it was?
So we're gonna push this off, because John was the one who did the study, but since John's out, you'll see this again in your packet on June 2nd.
Okay.
The
Since
short
Jen,
answer is shorter.
Much shorter.
not that I thought, not that I thought.
That's the one who was concerned about it, yes.
since Jen is off and I see there's a motion to waive a pavilion fee for a cutback, Leo, my son is the cub master. So should I abstain from the motion? And
Are you making any money out of this decision? Will you be remunerated?
no.
Will you be paid? You have no conflict. You may participate.
You might have a hamburger.
No, I'll have that either. I'll make a motion to waive the pavilion fee for Cub Pack 85 on 6/125. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Natasha. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Amy, Township Engineers Report.
Yes, not too much to report tonight. You'll talk about Sylvan Cascade next meeting. The Learn Road Safety Enhancement Project and roundabout survey work. We are still waiting on one of the primary easements that's required for that project. The TASA project, again, we have those 2 easements, which we talked about tonight. We're continuing to meet with PennDOT and continuing to work through all of their minutia and their many, many reviews, which almost made it seem as though an HOP would have been a better process than the non-HOP path. But we continue walking through that, and I'm not familiar with the TLC walking through.
Does anybody have anything for Amy tonight?
What is their 611? Is it curb to curb or is it outside the curves on their right away on 611?
What is the right of way?
Yeah, what's their?
It's outside.
Is it?
I think it's 70 feet.
Sorry. Total.
70 feet total.
Anybody else?
Amy, are you familiar with the traffic study that was done for off Cranberry for the Woodland and Antler intersections?
I am not John handled those traffic.
Okay.
So he'll be prepared. I know there were some questions that came up last meeting. He said, we'll be prepared to talk about that.
Has the board looked at Antler? Or have you looked at Antler? My concern is, again, if nobody's seen it, I urge you to go out and see it, because I stopped there this weekend, and it's a hill. You barely come level. You're gonna hit the stop sign. You're gonna slide through the stop sign. You're gonna hit a ditch and a tree at the same time in the wintertime. I'm very concerned for the wintertime driving of that specific stop sign. The Woodland I'm 100% okay with, because that's all flat. But that Antler one is, and where's our liability if we put a stop sign there that we're gonna literally slide through into ditches?
I would be concerned if that's the result.
Sight distance is a little bit of an issue too. To just expound on that, if there's a car down there that crawled down and is stopping, the road's a little slippery, whether it's rain or snow, someone's coming from behind, tries to hit the brakes, that person stops.
You're not, yeah.
That's a
Whereas
tricky
if
sight.
if you're trying to pull out of Antler and make a left, it's a very difficult left. But perhaps before putting a stop sign, could we put one of those mirrors on the hill to be able to create a line of distance for the hill? That when you're sitting at Antler making a left, you look at the mirror and it shows you a, you know, somewhat of a distance versus a stop sign. I stopped there twice this weekend.
I know there's concerns about speeding on that road, I've seen it.
100%.
I'm just hopeful that when the one that goes in, that everybody's in agreement on, the one that goes in at the Woodlands, I'm hopeful that that's gonna correct some of the other stuff.
I think it definitely will, because that's
Pretty
smack
close.
dab in the middle
And
of
that's
the
where the
speed
grader
zone,
is.
yes.
Anything else? Thank you. Township Solicitor, Mr. Greek, or Mr. Devato.
Thank you, Rich. Archer Lane, parties have been changed. We got confirmation today from the court that that was done. As expressed earlier in the meeting, we will have a hearing for the zoning amendments with regard to both the kennel nuisance and solar and wind facilities. And nothing much else has transpired since our last meeting.
Did the court come back with anything on shooting range?
Nothing. And we already have 2 decisions in for arguments that were held that same day, different panels, but we have not received anything.
And Prince didn't file an amicus brief?
Did not file anything. He was not there. Seems to be a little bit of his MO.
He's running for something.
I don't know.
He's running for,
I don't know.
I don't know what he's running for. He's running for something in the state.
But no, we have not received any decisions whatsoever.
I'll make a motion to authorize the advertisement of the solar and wind.
We've already done that, Rich.
Oh, it's done?
We checked the minutes and we were authorized to advertise that 2 meetings ago, and we advertised it to make June 2nd.
Very good. Does anybody have anything for Leanne? Seeing that, public comment. Anybody in the audience wish to make public comment?
Hey, Rob Danby from Swiftwater. I was wondering if you can confirm that Blue Ray Solar has put an application in for a solar farm in Swiftwater officially?
That's what I'm aware of.
I've not heard anything.
They had inquired about timelines. I would say it's imminent, but nothing has been officially submitted yet.
And so if that timeline exceeds you passing a new ordinance regarding the placements of solar fields, you'll have to abide by the new.
Correct.
Okay. And when's that gonna go through?
June 2nd?
June 2nd, our next Board of Commissioners.
Pretty soon, they better hurry up, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Rich is here.
Right, that's all I need to know.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Maureen Madden, Representative Madden. I have been getting a number of phone calls and seeing Facebook posts regarding the library, and I would like some clarification on that. It was my understanding that you all were moving the library to the new building, and then there was a notice saying that the library was closing permanently, and I've been getting some phone calls into my office regarding that.
The library was offered to stay here for at least 2 years, same location, same square footage. And also they could use this room if they needed to as a meeting room or some type of a book reading room, whatever.
Free.
Yeah, exactly, free. And then possibly 2 years down the road when the Glenwood Hall is remodeled, we would give them space in there, also free. And for whatever reason, they chose not to accept that.
Okay, so there, it's gonna take approximately 2 years for you to refurbish a space in the new building that would be suitable for them to have their library, and in the meantime, they didn't wanna take you up on this offer?
No,
They just said, no, we'll just close once and for all?
Actually, this building is gonna stay here for at least 2 years, possibly, maybe a little longer, as of today.
Mhm.
Because with the sidewalks coming to 611, we have to maintain an office for the contractor, whoever wins the bid. So rather than destroy this building and also eliminate the library, we decided as a board to keep the library here and use the front of the building for an office space for the contractor, wherever that may be in the future.
But it wasn't the new building. I want to be clear about that. It was Glenwood Hall, not the
Yeah,
new building.
Glenwood Hall, that's correct.
There is confusion, because in the beginning, years ago, it was talked about,
The existing library at the old NCC is in the police side, it can't be on the police side. There's no, the administration third is full.
And with obtained rent, with the county
And
renting
the
the
county
space
renting
from
the
us,
other one.
rather than not receiving rent from the library.
And then we heard the same time that the media heard. We were in Hershey at PSAC the other day, and all of us got an email at the same time saying, thank you.
And there wasn't, they didn't give you a reason, just we're not interested in that.
Yeah, we all received the same letter, and
Yeah.
they said that they felt when.
Yeah, I would
not
appreciate
seeing
it if you would mind, wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, free wasn't good enough.
Then I could give, send responses to people who inquire through email, and then when people call, my staff has,
I think the library has a board meeting this Wednesday, I believe. And I know there's some people from the township that's going to attend to try and have them change their position. So we're always, I'm open to having them come and tell us something different.
is that meeting in the daytime or in the evening?
I don't know that.
Okay, we'll look it up and follow up.
But I will say that in the email that was sent to the board, back in January, we did offer this, for them to stay here, plus this room for any additional programming space they had asked for, and the email finished with, "We look forward to building our dream library together." So nothing could be misconstrued of us ever wanting to get rid of the library. We've had a great relationship with the library for 35 plus years.
I'm sorry, when you said building our new library together, you mean?
At Glenwood Hall.
That's what you, okay.
Yeah.
We'll send you that, I'll send you that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Monica Garrity, Henryville. I just kind of wanted to bring up a point that came up about public comment. I know you heard my opinion at the town hall meeting, those of you that were there. But I do think that it's very difficult for us in the audience when a meeting or an agenda item is brought to our attention on a piece of paper and we have no idea what the opinions are or which way it's gonna go, that we have no right to ask any questions or give our input as you are supposed to care about what the public thinks. And at the end of the meeting, you've already voted on it, so it makes it very difficult. So I would just like to say, as he wanted to speak and say something, that Rich made a point that if you vote it in, then we could change that. So I just think the public should consider, if you truly care about the town and what people have to say. We don't know the knock boxes, right? Like something comes up and I might have input, but it doesn't matter because I don't know on a piece of paper, right? And that wasn't on the agenda and I realize that. But there are certain things that come up and we have no idea which way you're gonna sway. So saying something at the beginning of the meeting and not knowing, it's like when you have a conversation with somebody, you have to have a conversation to see where they stand. So I just think that people should take that into consideration when you're voting on if these commissioners are interested in hearing what you have to say during a meeting, or they just want to kind of keep you quiet. So that's my.
Monica, at the last meeting, Vice Chair Lee had asked for a workshop.
I did.
To just, sorry. Richard Wine had asked for a workshop on public comment, and once we move into the new building where we get our live streaming coverages back, there will be a public workshop based all on public comment.
Or to possibly change the meetings. Okay, I appreciate that. I think it's important. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Maria Dantas, Water. Going along with the previous speaker, I think if the agenda were clearer, then, as far as what you're going to be addressing, some things are just very vague. So if you were clearer about what you're going to be addressing at that specific meeting, then we could make the points at the beginning or at the end. But often, just too vague. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to say, on the same venue as this, is the last meeting when, I understand that you had the issue with the Zoom and stuff, but I was really upset the last meeting because the answer was, we're not mandated to have Zoom. And I really felt that that was the wrong answer, that you should be welcoming people here and welcoming people that can't make it to the meeting and wanna be here. So are you planning on doing that in the new building?
Yeah.
Having
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cause I was almost under the impression that you weren't gonna have it at all.
No, the room is actually built for it. We had connectivity issues with the current technology, and rather than dumping thousands of dollars of taxpayer
No,
money
I
into
get that.
a system that we wouldn't continue, but it is built.
Okay, I
for
just
it.
was
Cheryl,
unclear.
You were here the night that we were here till
Yeah, till
11 o'clock
like,
at night,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
because Zoom didn't work, we had to
Right.
repeat that whole meeting.
Right, right.
That's what we're
It
trying
was
to
for
avoid,
both
that
of them.
if the technology doesn't work, we don't wanna repeat another meeting.
No, I get that. I just was unclear on if you were gonna continue doing that in the new building. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Charles Kepler, taxpayer. Just regarding the Knox box, I think there are two additional benefits to it that I didn't hear mentioned to requiring it. The first is standardization. I think, when you're responding to something like a fire or an EMS call or something like that, there are already so many variables. Knowing where the key is going to be located, how you can access the building, not having to worry about is there some kind of secondary system we have to worry about, knowing exactly how you can get in. I think that that's a huge benefit to the firefighters and first responders. The other thing is I think it's neighborly, because fires, they spread fast. It's not just the individual business owner who's affected by a fire breaking out, and every second counts when you're responding to a fire. You want to make sure that you're able to get in there as quickly as possible to prevent it from spreading to your neighbors. If you have some kind of secondary system in place or they're waiting for a key holder, you're not just endangering the firefighters, you're not just endangering your own property, you're also endangering the properties that are adjacent to it. So I do think it should be required for every business. I think standardizing it that way would be a huge benefit to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make a public comment? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.